up, guys? It's Robo. Thanks for joining me down in the cage. Today we're going to quickly talk about what is widely considered the best bench specialty bar on the market, and that is the Kabuki Kadillac bar. This is the Rogue model, the one that Rogue makes. It's made in Columbus, Ohio, and it's available for purchase on the Rogue site for $495 plus tax and shipping, so it's definitely expensive. So because of the cost, it's definitely an investment. It's not for everybody. So let's quickly talk about why you would be in the market for a specialty bar. The Camber obviously allows for extra range of motion for benching and then also for some of those pressing movements before it touches your body, but it also gives extra stability when talking about the Kabuki bar specifically. A lot of multi-grip bars, those traditional football bars that are flat and have the multi-grip handles, are super unsteady when benching, and one of the ways that Kabuki countered that problem is by introducing this Camber to it. It has 3 different widths and 3 different angled handles. It has a 10-degree handle, a 12.5-degree handle, and a 15-degree handle. We're just going to call it narrow, middle, and wide for the sake of this video. And all of the handles have knurling on the Rogue model. The Kabuki model just has a textured powder coat. Pretty much works the same, honestly. This is a very, very passive knurl, and the textured powder coat does have a grippy feel to it on the Kabuki model of this bar. So no matter which one you get, it's going to have a similar feel on the handles. The Rogue one does have a little bit of a thicker handle compared to the Kabuki one. But other than that, all of the differences are very, very minute between the two. This does have bright zinc sleeves and a 40.5 inch width. That's the rackable width, which is something to note depending on your setup. It's going to make it easier or harder for this bar to work on your rack. It's pretty much going to work universally. Like, it works on the combo. It's just really tight and awkward. I wouldn't recommend using it on the combo if you have another option, but that is something to consider. 40.5 inches as this width here. Another thing to note too, Rogue does offer 2 different sleeve options. This is the bright zinc sleeve, but they also have that proprietary matte black finish on the sleeve. And one of the cons on this bar specifically is actually these sleeves are so loud and annoying when you're putting plates on. I'll kind of show a video over this where you can hear. Listen to this. Some people love that noise. I don't. That is kind of something to think about, but do you want to spend $50 to upgrade the sleeves? Ultimately, the answer for me was no, but that's kind of a choice that you can make independently. Let's kind of talk about using this bar. For me personally, this is a pressing bar. I think that's kind of where this bar shines, but it's kind of advertised that you can do bench press, shoulder press, bicep curls in like a neutral grip, and then rows. Let's kind of talk about the presses first, and then we'll get into the biceps and the rows. And I'm going to show kind of videos of me doing all of those movements with this bar kind of while we're talking here. But bench press specifically, a lot of people have complained that the wide grip on the Kabuki Kadillac is a little bit awkward and stresses the shoulders a bit too much for their comfort. I haven't really found that it's painful or uncomfortable, but I do kind of agree that it's awkward compared to the other 2. It is definitely my least favorite of the 3 handles, but it's kind of workable. It's really going to depend on everyone's leverages personally. If you have longer arms, it's going to be probably less awkward versus if you have shorter arms and it's really an extended outward reach. But kind of this middle grip is my happy place. It's the most traditional grip towards if I was benching with like a power bar. It's the most similar feel for me. And then this narrow grip is going to be more of like a tricep focused movement. I really, really am a big fan of bench pressing with this bar. I think that the camber and the extra range of motion as well as the neutral grip really is a nice combination for me. Not everyone is going to go full range of motion that this bar allows. They're going to stop at a traditional like a power bar stop range of motion, and that's okay. It's just whatever you want to do is fine. I like going the full range of motion with this bar. I feel like it's not too much on the shoulders, and I actually have, my right shoulder is pretty shoddy, so I'm happy that it doesn't bother me, but I didn't know, like when I was thinking about purchasing this bar, if I was going to be able to go the full range of motion without pain and issue. But so far it really hasn't been a problem at all, which is awesome. When we talk about shoulder pressing, the same thing. I really prefer this narrow grip for shoulder pressing. I feel like it doesn't stress the shoulders too much or the wrists too much, and I feel like the wide is a little bit awkward, but you can kind of get away with the narrow or the middle grip pretty comfortably on a shoulder press, and it works really, really well for that. Compared to Rogue's other cambered bar, like their CB4, it's honestly a pretty similar feel. It kind of just depends on the width that I'm trying to get. If I want to do a more narrow width on the bar, I'm going to use the Kabuki, but if I want to go on the third handle here, I'm probably going to opt for using one of my other camber bars for an overhead press instead of reaching for this Cadillac bar in particular. When we talk about rows and biceps, I find that these are kind of awkward movements, to be honest. I did get a lot of stress on my wrist when trying to row with this bar on the narrow and middle-most handles. The outermost I felt was the most comfortable, and honestly the only handle that I would consider for rowing. But another thing to consider too is if you're rowing with this bar, you really want to row it out of a rack or out of J-cups. I think it's awkward too picking it up off the floor and getting into that like bent over row position with this bar. It's just not something that I love. The first time I did it, I like scraped my shin. User error for sure, but I was like, didn't love that. And then subsequent times after, every time I was like, it's really just better to get it at like hip height, pull it off a set of J-cups, bend over, get in position, and start rowing like that. For biceps, similarly, you know, really it's better if you get it off the rack, just comfort-wise. Biceps worked really well. You don't want to go too heavy because then you do start to get the stress on the wrist as well, just similar to the rows. Real quick, going back to rows, I feel like it just didn't want to, the bar just did not want to stay level, and that's why you're getting the stress on the wrist, which really wasn't an issue during bench pressing, but was an issue during rows. And talking about that, like, look, if you're benching with this bar and you just let go, like, so that's something to consider as well. I don't even know what to describe that, just like tips back. But it's honestly a hazard, especially if you're not ready for it and you go to sit up and it's swinging back, you could get clocked on the back of the head pretty good, which is definitely not going to be fun. But anyway, going back to biceps, yeah. If you go any heavier, like then what would normally be like a comfortable 10 rep set, I feel like you do get a lot of stress like downwards on the wrist, which is not the most comfortable thing in the world. But again, that's not really why this bar was designed. It's kind of like an added plus that you can work in those movements if you want to. This is a pressing bar. It's a bench press accessory bar, and it's really to alleviate stress for powerlifters who bench press multiple times a day and are looking for some variability in their programming, again, to give some of those key joints a break. I use this as my close grip accessory work. I bench press 4 times a week, so I am looking to give some of my joints a break sometimes and also give me some variability. So I do like to use this bar once a week to get some of my close grip work, and that's been going really well for me. I do like that I do get added tricep work and while still working my chest as well, compared to kind of like a close grip power bar, which is going to be more similar to like a traditional non-competition bench grip for most people. It's not like the football close grip. So with this, I am getting more tricep work. So I'm kind of doing 2 birds with 1 stone, which I really like. But overall, if you're looking for a bench press specific specialty bar, this is going to be one that's hard to beat. There are other ones on the market. Most companies are going to have like a variation of a cambered bench press bar at this point. So there are some more budget friendly options, but if you're gonna say like, hey, price isn't an issue, what's the best specialty bench bar for me to get? It's gonna be hard to beat the Rogue Kabuki Cadillac bar. Just some of the details that Rogue kind of stepped up from taking production over from Kabuki is going to be like typical Rogue quality. With the knurling, I really think is a nice addition, and also this X at the bottom is going to be flush with the Kabuki kind of like outer ridges, versus in the Kabuki edition it was kind of brought in more towards the center, so you kind of had a sharp edge running throughout, which was again just kind of like a comfortability thing. You don't necessarily want to have a sharp edge coming down on your chest with each rep when you're looking for comfort. But again, overall, this is a really, really great bar. It's an awesome option to add to a home gym or a commercial setting, especially for people with a powerlifting focus. But anyways, thanks for watching. Overall, nothing but pretty positive things to say about this. It is a little bit hard to store. It does have those loud sleeves, but really, really small issues. Overall, really good things to say, and I would recommend this bar. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in the cage. Peace.